Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial where we're gonna cover the basics of JavaScript, or at least some of the basics. JavaScript is a scripting language. It's the most popular programming language on the web, and it's used almost in most of the web pages that have interactions and functions and so on. Alright, I don't wanna talk too much, so let's begin. Now you can add the script in your head element tags here, and inside the script we can add JavaScript. Okay, said it's a scripting language, or you can also include the scripts. Let's say if we write alert hello world. Alert is a built function, JavaScript. If I save, it's gonna say hello world. So we get this message from the browser. You've seen this probably a million times, right? So click OK, and it only fires once because we load the page, the script runs, and it outputs the data we give it to output, or the string here. Awesome. So this is an alert. Now let's create the body here. Why strange that the body was not there, but yeah. Let's say div, let's give it an ID root, and let's say I am Mike. Okay, so HTML, we have the element, the attribute, and the ID. Okay, so if I want to manipulate this div with JavaScript, like we use in CSS, when we use CSS, we do this thing, right? So this is an ID, and I want to add background red. Of course, I need to add it in a style. So okay, so we take this root and we give it some properties and values. Now we're gonna do it. I'm gonna comment this out. I'm gonna do something similar with JavaScript. We want to target this one with JavaScript now, not the CSS. So what we're gonna do is document get element by ID, and it's going to be root. So get this element. This is an HTML element. Get this with the ID root. So, and we're gonna use let root. Now what is let? Let defines a variable that can change. Root, a root is a variable is like a storage for data. Okay, so we're saving this document's data here, or this document, or everything that it contains is saved in this one. I know this sounds stupid, but I will show you what it does. Now if we say root, now root becomes this one, this thing. Okay, equals means now this root is this thing here. So document element by ID becomes root. So root, I can write inner HTML, or let's do this. Let's say alert again, and let's output the inner HTML gets a text of this HTML element. Okay, so it's going to get this I'm Mike. So from root, access this root and get the inner HTML. Let's save. Cannot, now if you see the console here, you see, let me show you. I don't know how familiar you are, but right click, inspect, go here, console, cannot read properties of null. So this returns null for some reason. So it doesn't have any data, anything. So let's try the other way. Inner HTML, we can write it here. It's the same thing if I write this root inner HTML, as root is the same thing as this one. Now I comment this out, and you comment this with, you see these 2 forward slashes. And let's see, now nothing is going to happen because I'm not outputting it. I'm just saving this. But we see we still get this error number 13 in the HTML, and then we have colon 13. So I'm doing something wrong here. And let's find what I'm doing wrong. Document, get element by ID. No, it doesn't work. Okay, so let's move the scripts before the body. So we have this loaded first and then the scripts. And now we don't get this error. And it's because the script was loaded before that, and that caused an error. So always have your scripts before the body. Before the end of the body, sorry, before the end. Always, before the closing body tag, add your scripts. So basically there was no mistake here. It was just that the script was in the head and it didn't load. So I'm gonna remove this again. Or let's add this as it is, and let's say alert root. So alert root is gonna show this pop-up window, then it's gonna take the text of this root element. So I'm Mike, you see? So it takes the text and it shows. Awesome. There we go. So that's nice, right? So we can take the data from HTML and manipulate it and change it and whatever we want. We can also change this. So now we can manipulate this. We have this root. We can do anything. We have many functions we can use. We can also change to test. Let me see. We need to remove this because now it becomes inner HTML. So now it's root inner HTML. Now we change HTML. And we can also add, of course, HTML. And now if we even inspect here, see the div, right? So we can basically add the HTML from our JavaScript. Now we can also have a const, which we can also declare a variable. Const, for example, name is Mike. I know Mike is not going to change, so it's a constant. So for variables that are not going to change, we use constant, okay? Let we use for variables that are going to change. So this can change now, so let it works better for this data here. But Mike is not going to change. We're going to have it, it's going to be Mike all the time. Now what happens if I add const name George, to make to George. Now let's see console log. This console log is going to be your friend, so you're going to use it a lot. So when you are programming, it treats every code like from the beginning to the end, okay, up to down. So it's going to read this Mike, and then it's going to read this one. So this should output George. Let's see, in the console has already been declared. And it's because it's already declared, so it doesn't want to, it cannot change. Let's see if I add let, the same. So we cannot redeclare a variable here. If I add name2, name is Mike, and we can say name2 George. Console log. We can also add plus, which is gonna concatenate plus and then plus again. So one variable plus this. This is called a string, by the way. This is a string. Let number. This is a number, or let's make it 5. This is a number. This is a string. You see the string is, he uses this, I don't know the word for this, quotes, probably single quotes, yeah. And you can also use the double quotes, it doesn't matter in this case. So it's gonna be the same output, you see. So yeah, we have number, we have also float. It's like 5.5. Let's see, number, float. So now we're console logging everything. So we should create a new line here. Awesome. So let's say number, let's say float. So we have a number 5, we have 5.5. So float is basically decimals. We have booleans. Give me just a second to see that I'm not forgetting anything. String, number, float, booleans, and that varies in different programming languages. So now it's not the same for every programming language. Let's see, float, number, boolean is false, is not defined. Oh, sorry, this is okay, so now we're gonna console log boolean. Now I know this sounds very strange, and what you might be thinking, what are you showing me now? But this is, you're gonna use this everywhere. So you wanna write down numbers, you wanna write down strings, you wanna then float is not so common. It's when you're doing operations or prices and this kind of stuff. But strings, numbers, these are called data types. Okay, data types. Strings, numbers. I can write it down so you remember. String, number. I'll write this here. So float. We have and boolean. There are more, but these are important for now. And you can also, there's one more thing called one more important object. An object can be, for example, let's say age 18. Now we're gonna console log the object also. Age 18, you see. And this is with curly braces. So basically an object is, you define values and properties. Think about it like CSS, okay? You have this curly braces, you have the property and the value. But you can have like anything, like a lot of age, height 1.90, for example, 1.9. Yeah, and that's basically how we get data. A lot of data uses objects in with JavaScript. Okay, so when we get data from a website or something, from an API, okay, that's a bit complicated. But when you get that data from somewhere, you can get it as an object, and then you print out from the object. Okay, and I'm gonna show you what I mean. So if I want to print out for example, the age, I'm gonna say object. And I'm gonna say age. And look at this, I get 18. So we use the dot and then we use the property. If I change this to height, I'm gonna get height. Save, and then it gets 1.0. So this console is gonna help you a lot because you're gonna do a lot of debugging here. Now if we actually, instead of using the console, let's actually write this, output this on this root. So we can again say object inner HTML is object, right? Object, and then we want to show and you see this VS Code autocomplete shows us the properties of this object. This is going to be age. And this is going to be 18, object in HTML. Sorry, I wrote it wrong. it should be root in HTML. Root in HTML, and then it becomes 18. So what I'm saying now, get this root element here, which we got from here, because we said this variable, think about the variable as a storage. This saves, this holds this data, this document, this element, okay? This is saved in this variable, and then we can access it from, so we don't need to write this document get element ID every time. It's much easier to write root and have the same value as this one, right? And then we output anything we want there. Awesome. I hope you're getting along. I hope I'm not doing this too fast or something. Now let's see other fun stuff. We also have arrays, but I don't think I want to go deep into that now. So let's just make one array. Which they're gonna confuse you, I think, a bit. But don't worry. Let's say animal elephant. So we said that let this variable, let me write variable also, so you remember that this holds this value, okay? This holds something, this is storage. The same as the array. The array is like a array, think about it as a storage room or something. So this holds animals and elephants, an animal and an elephant. Okay, so let's say array. If I do this, let me open this console log. We see the console. We see two array elements. We say array 2 means that it has two elements, and it's 0 based, so it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. It doesn't start from 1, it starts from 0. So the 0 is the animal, the 1 is the elephant. 0, 1. And what does it mean is, now if I do, now it's not the same as object, right? In object we would use, because an object has the property and the value here. Now the difference is, from here we can do braces here, and then we can just say 0, and this is gonna say access the first element, because it's 0 based. That's why. Don't get confused with that. Why we don't use 1 because it's the first. It's because it starts from 0 always. So if we save this, it's gonna show us animal. You see here, 42 is the line, 42. So it's showing us the animal. So if I do the same thing and I write 1, 0 based first item, second item, okay, animal, elephant, and then we can write, we can concatenate with the plus sign, remember, goes first, save, animal goes first, so this is animal, because array, take the first item of the array, it's gonna say animal, output animal, and then it's gonna output this thing. And the same thing we can do now is say root inner HTML, let's say array. I would do something else. I would say we want another variable called sorry, let's change this to monkey. So we have two animals, monkey and elephant. Now let's say animals. Our animals in this variable, now I want to save some animals, and I'm gonna say array 0, plus array 1, which is gonna take the first and the second element, which is the first and the second. And it starts from 0, so the first is gonna be 0 and 1. Save. And now we have, let's say we wanna save the animals. So, and now it says monkey, elephant. And now if we want to add the space there, you see, right? We want the space. We're gonna use this here, space, an empty string with a space, and then we can add any text we want. Yes. Awesome, right? So there we have it. So that's where I output stuff, how it's, we spoke about the arrays, the objects, how to access them. We spoke the numbers, floats, strings, variables. These are very important. Now let's do something else, which is fun. We can also do CSS. Let's say we want this root div, we want this to be red, but not with CSS, but with JavaScript. That will trigger CSS. So let's say document get, or we have this root element, or actually let's create a new one. I want you to do this sometime, so you have to do this yourself, so we learn faster. And let's say animal container. So I'm gonna do this now. I'm gonna say sorry, I did it a bit too fast. So just an ID, a div with an ID animal container. And then we're gonna access the ID. Remember, document get element by ID animal container. This is the ID of our div. And then we want to add this in a variable. We're gonna call this variable, and always remember to give them good names, relevant names, so you don't mix them, because if you have like 500 variables, then you're gonna get a bit confused if they have terrible names. So let's say animals, and this variable contains our animals, or animal element. So now we're gonna say animals inner HTML is animals. Now these animals, sorry, bad of me, terrible of me. We used these animals before, so has already been declared. Terrible. And that's why we need the console, because we can see the errors. So I cannot use, of course, the same variable name. So I'm gonna use this. I'm actually gonna make this a constant, because it's gonna take the values from the array, and in this case they're not gonna change. So I can call them animals. I should call these animals, actually. It was a correct name, const animals. And I'm gonna call this animal. You see, the names are not so easy to. Let's call it actually animal container. Now you can also use camel case if you want, but it's up to you. I'm just using the snake case. That's what it's called. This is how you name variables. Say animal container. This is a camel case, it goes up and down. So the beginning of each word. But I'm gonna use snake case, which is this one. You don't need to remember this for now. It's a bit, yeah. But just so you know. Awesome. So we're gonna take this animal container, and we're gonna say in HTML, show these animals, which animals are the first and the second item of this array, where I have stored these values. Save monkey, elephant. Now it shows 2 times because we have the same here. So this root is gonna show, now it shows 18 because I have this inner HTML, which is previous line, which is loaded. So this is going to be the last line from this root, age 18. So age, remember we have an object where we have two properties with two values, and we are accessing the age by saying object.age. Play with this and you will understand it. Don't worry. I mean, I know it's JavaScript is not so easy in the beginning, but once you grasp the basics, then you're gonna have a lot of fun. Awesome. So we did this. Let's do some CSS as we said before. Okay, so I'm gonna take my animal container and I'm gonna say style. You see style property, which is gonna say, what do we want to do? We want to change the font size. We can do this. I can say 40 pixels. Animal container. Remember, animal container is going to take the ID of the animal container, the div we created, and it's going to make the text 40 pixels. So there we go. So again, we're using CSS with JavaScript. Isn't that amazing? So we are styling. Oh, not CSS, we are styling actually. It's a bit different to say CSS maybe here. So we're basically using styling. So we're styling, we're changing the content. We can do anything we want, anything. Okay, so these are very basic things. We can also say document write something. And it outputs directly here. If you wanna use this way to output stuff, I don't recommend it either. If we use it on the line before, it's gonna show on the last. I cannot. I wanna say document write text returns empty. Okay. Yeah, we can use also document write. There are so many functions. We can say 10 plus 10. So here's another cool thing is you see you can do arithmetic operations here, calculations and stuff. Another cool thing is that when you're in the browser, you want to have fun with your friends, you can say, oh, I can do a calculation in the browser. You can say like, because anything we write here, we can write the same thing here in this console. So we can say let x is 10. Then don't worry about this undefined. And then we can send 10 plus 10 is, sorry, what I'm doing, x, okay, let's say let y is 10x plus 10. Now we have defined x here, declared it, so and y is going to give us 20, but we have to output it. So if I do alert here, look at this, alert this one, it's going to say do x plus 10, x is 10, so it's going to give us 20. So you see, you can do it exactly the same thing here. So this is also cool. So yeah, you can basically write anything. And you can also do this. 10 plus 20, 30. Okay, so we refresh, and we have time we refresh, this disappears, of course, from the browser. It's not saved when you do anything you do here. It's not going to be saved, but anything you do here is going to be saved in the actual script. I think I have covered the basics. Of course, the JavaScript is a big language, so there's so many things. I think we should cover the date also. Date is, it's pretty easy in the beginning too. So let's say date, const date, or yeah, let's do it as a const date is new date. So this is a new object. Don't worry about that. You don't need to know everything in the beginning. Just write new date. Let's say console log. If I console log this, we get the date, 2nd of March. And we get very detailed date here. I can also do alert if you don't see my screen. And now we see the date. So we just save the date in this date variable now, constant. And then of course you can play around and say, I'm not sure in JavaScript if you can do this. Let's see. So this is gonna output the year on, no, it doesn't do it. How do we do it? Let's say 2022. Yeah, no, that's not what I wanted. So we need the format for to show only the year, for example. Or we can actually create our own date. So we can say 2020 to 2015, January 23rd. And it's going to give us that date, you see, 2015. So we can basically add our own date there. And, you know, sometimes you want to add your own dates depending on what you're doing. And that's it for the date. I'm going to just want to see how you can output the year on in JavaScript. Give me a second, because that's pretty. Sometimes you want to output only a certain part. Let's see, date. Let's see. Okay, so let's say alert. Let's say date, get year. No, get full year. Let's see, get full year. It's a function. Yeah, we didn't talk about the functions. Okay, I think we need to. Yes, so that's basically it. You just write get date and then get full year, which is a function of this date class, to say. Okay. All right, so we don't need to go into this now. I need to show you the functions. The function is like one of the most important things. So we cover the variables, data types, and so on. And now we want to cover the functions, and that's it for today. I think we don't need to go further into this. And I will, of course, make more tutorials on JavaScript. Okay, what is a function? A function is a set of code that does something for us. So, for example, we want to say hi, okay? Say hi, and then this is a function. Okay, let's say function, right? Always function here. Say hi. This is the name of the function. Then you have this parenthesis because you want to pass you might want to pass arguments inside, parameters, and then you use curly braces, and that's where the code lies. So now, if I do, instead of writing all the time alerts and so on, and console logs and stuff, say for example, I want this function to give me the date, or let's say get date. Okay, let's call it get date. That's a bit more relevant. So I'm gonna use this code here inside. Instead of just writing everything, you know, like line after line, I'm gonna add this in a function called get date, and I want this to return me let's comment this out. I want this to return the date. So basically, when I call this function, this is going to give me the same thing here, this date. Okay, the return is going to get the return is a value that the function gives, okay? So a function can have multiple operations inside, and then you have a return which gives you the output you want from this function. So now, if I do this, get date, and I use this, because remember it's a function. So if I just get date, nothing is going to happen. We will need to use the parentheses. So this is going to say call the function get date. When I say call this function, this is going to run const date, and then we're going to get this one, this date, because that's what it returns. So basically now this function becomes this one. It gives us this value. Now if I save, let me save, nothing happens. This runs though. Now if I instead of return write, oh sorry, let's keep it as it is. Let's write actually, let's say animal container. We want to output this into the div. We have animal container, which was this one. So we want to say inner HTML is get date. What's going to happen now? Wow, amazing, right? So what we did now is we call the function that is doing this thing for us. So remember, functions are very good, because if you have like so many lines of code, you don't want to have this everything inline, you know, you want to have functions that take care of each thing you want help with. You create a function and that does it for you. Functions are your how do you say, like think about a kind of automation, or like your slaves, I don't know, or your yeah, workers, or yeah. So you create functions that do stuff for you, and then yeah. So if you mess on a function, then the whole platform can break. So be careful how you what you write. And then you can also put parameters. Okay. Now if I say, for example, full year. So if I say full year, nothing is happening. Okay. Now, and one more thing I have to talk about is the if else conditions. I'm not going to go deep into that, absolutely not now, probably in the next tutorial. These are also super important. If date is true, sorry, if full year is true, so if this exists, we want to return this one. Else we want to return this one. Now the full year is a parameter that's going to go here. So this, when I call this get date, I can say, but I want this function to give me the full year also. Full year. So I will pass this full year. Okay. The full year can be anything in that case. So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna make this a boolean. We say boolean is true or false. That's it. Remember, up here, the booleans are only true or false. False, boolean is false or true. In this case, it was false. Okay. Now I'm gonna say let full year is true, and then I'm gonna pass this into this one, full year. Sorry. Now say full year. So now I said let full year is true, get date full year, and then if full year is true, now it is gonna be true, because when you pass this into this function, and the way to pass a variable, this is a variable that holds a Boolean value, which is true. So this is true, a variable that is true. It goes here, and then if we actually console log this, console log full year, we're gonna get true. Index HTML 63, that's a line. So it's basically true. If I make this false here, it's gonna be false. So I put this here, I pass it this parameter into this function. And then what I'm doing is I'm gonna say if this full year is true, return this one. Return the full year. And there it works. You see? It gives us the 2015 because it gets, this is like an inbuilt function of the date. The date is like it's a JavaScript class, I think. I cannot see. Usually if you click here you can see, but there are some JavaScript functions, classes and so on we can use. So this date is an instance of this date, and then we can use, we have, look, get full year, get hours, get day, for example 5, because it's a 5th day of the week or something. Yeah. Get hours. Yeah, always use the parentheses. 1. Yeah, I don't know what that is exactly. Get date, get yeah, you can get a lot of stuff. Just get the full year now, and then that's it. We want to show the full year. And it's 2015. Why? Because we put it here. Now if I don't use anything, it's gonna show the current year, 2022. So if this is false now, because if I say if full year is true, show this. Now if the full year is false, then this condition is not gonna be met, okay? So if I put this false, this is gonna run here. So you see what's happening, right? Remember, full year is a Boolean, it's false. It goes here, it passes in the function as a parameter. Now it goes, we check the full year if it's true or false. If it's true, we're gonna return this result. If it's not, we're gonna return this one. And that's pretty much it. That's and then you can also add the if else, for example, here, if else or if else if. If else with the same so, and then we add the condition inside the if and the if else. We add conditions. The else doesn't have any parentheses because it's like the last else condition, so you don't need any parentheses. Try all these things. If it doesn't work, just do this. If hours, get hours, sorry, get hours. Now you can use if else, sorry. Oh no, else if. Oh, I haven't used JavaScript in a while. That's terrible. Sorry for that. Let's see, why does it work? Let's see if else, if else, if else. Okay. So, and then now what's get hours? Nothing. But if I do this get hours, if I add this parameter, if this holds an actual value, now it doesn't because I didn't pass anything here. But if I say, for example, make it true, I can pass the parameter, the Boolean directly. You don't need to save it in a variable. If it's true, and you don't need always this equals to true, but let's do it for now, not to confuse you. This is strict true. You have 3 equal signs. This is get hours is gonna be true. So this basically becomes this value. If you have 2, it means if this is this, but not strict. If this is, it can only be true, and it can only be, a Boolean and so on. So this is a strict equal with, but you can also use with 2, depending on what you're doing. Now we're gonna use 3 because we are sure it's gonna be true. We want for surely to be true, nothing else. And then I'm gonna say return date again, get hours. It's pretty easy, right? That's it. So if full year is true, get a full year, else if get hours is true. Now both of these are true. So this is gonna run after this one. So we're gonna get this value from now. So we actually, if I remove this, if I comment it out, it shows the first condition because both are true. So both of these are true. But what we can do in this case, we can say false. This is false. This shouldn't run. Wait a bit. Full year is false. So if full year is true, okay, yeah. So actually this doesn't run because this is false. This full year is false. See here. Now if I make it true, it goes first here. So it's gonna return this one. It's gonna return this one first, and only this one, because if this condition is met, it's gonna return. Once you return something, you cannot go to the next line. It's returned. That's it. Bam. The function ends. When you add the return, that's it. So if this is true, return. This is not gonna work. So I get the 2022 because it's true. So it's gonna meet this condition. If I make this false, it's gonna get this one. Now, if I make this false too, this true, the get hours is true. Remember, get hours, it's true. If I make this false, it's gonna jump to else, which is date, which returns a whole date. This returns full year, get hours, or date. So now we have three conditions, and that's pretty much it, guys. I think I probably forget some things, but I think these are like the basics you need to start with. Okay, these are play around with this, and of course I'm gonna make more tutorials, so don't worry about that. If you have any question, feel free to ask, and you can find plenty of tutorials with JavaScript and plenty of documentation. You can try also free code camp and these websites with bootcamps and stuff. So yeah, just play around, and yeah, see you in the next tutorial. Take care and have a nice day. Bye bye.